Hey guys, welcome to my channel on Python programming, and today we will be looking at the following topics, and these topics are related to another OOPS concept, that is inheritance. But before we talk about inheritance, let us discuss about some of the keywords like what is super, what is self, and then we will discuss about types of method in Python. So let's get started, and let me quickly open my Visual Studio Code. So here we have our Visual Studio Code, and here we will be looking at super and self keyword, and then we will be looking at types of method in Python. So let me quickly start with this. So as we all know that whenever we create a class, suppose class A is there, and we define one method, that is print. Inside this, then we say, hey, print hello world. So this is a very basic example of creating a class, and let me now create an object. So we say a object, and that we create like this. So here what we have done is we have created an object of class A, and that is a object. So we will say a, or we can just say print a underscore. So if you want to find that to which class this object belongs to, then you can do it like this. And if I run this program now quickly, if I quickly run this program, then you can see that it is saying, hey, that object a object is belonging to the class A. And now what is this self keyword? So this self keyword is basically denoting the instance on which this method was called. So a class, what we do is we create an object of a class. So we can have many objects of a class belonging to a class, and this self keyword differentiate different instances of the same class from each other. So here when we say self, then we will see that on which object it was called, and we know that it was called, this method was called on the object a object. So that is why it prints that, hey, this belongs to class A, and here we know that we have called this method on a object. So this is thus we know that what does self denotes here. Self denotes the instance on which this method was called. So that is the meaning of self here. Now let's quickly move to another keyword, that is the super keyword, and for that I will use inheritance a bit, because that is used whenever we have inheritance. So let's say we have a class B and it inherits class C. So this is how we inherit a class from another class. So here we have B, that is inheriting the properties of class A. So now what I will do is I will write print, or we can say here we have def init, and then let's say we have a definite here as well, and we say print init function of A, and here you can see we can say print init function of B. And now what we will do is we will say super dot init so this is all we have to do. Now when I run this program, I think we are missing self here, that is instance of the object, and this is also an instance. So now when I call this function, when I run this program, you can see that nothing was printed on the screen. Why? Because we haven't created any object. So let me create an object of B, and that is B, let's say object is equals to B, and let me call this function now, and you can see that init function of B was called. So we know whenever we create any object of a class, then init function is called internally by Python, and we need not to explicitly call that this init function. So here init function of b was called. So if I say about the control, how the control flow happened here, so when we created an object, it went to this class and it looked for the init function. So it came on line number 13, then it executed line number 14, that is the init function of b, and then it executed this line number 15. So what happened here? What happened here is that super keyword will call the init function, or will point to the super or the class which b has or is derivated from. So here b has been derived, or we can say derived class from a, so it will call the init function of a. So it will go to this and the control will come here on line number 5, and then it will say init function of a. So this is how the control flow happens, and super here is used, super keyword is used to denote or call the function of the parent class. So in this case parent class is class A, or it is also called as base class. So I will just share some of the concepts of inheritance here. Parent or base class, or okay, so these are the two naming convention which we use. So we can call this as parent class or the base class, and this is called as the child class as it inherits the properties, or we can call this as derived class. So this has been derived from class A, so that is why this is called as the derived class. So this is all about the super and the self keyword. Now let's quickly move to types of method in Python. So we have three kinds of methods in Python. One is instance method, and the other is class method, and the third one is the static method. So what does these mean? So in the previous example we have seen that when we created what you can say init function, we passed the instance of the instance to this function. So any function in which the instance is passed, that is called as the instance method. And why it is called as instance method? Because it is attached or related to an instance. So here you can see when we call b object, so it is connected to this b object. This init method is connected to b object, and that is why it is called as the instance method. So any method which takes instance as a parameter is called as instance method. So init method is one of the example of instance method. Now let's move to another one, that is the class method. Now let's see how we can implement class method. So let me take class P, and we say that class P has a method print, and what does it do? It prints a message. So let me say it prints a message and print hello world. So this is a message which print message prints. Now what I will do is I will just quickly create an object of P, and I will say hey, this is an object of P. And now what I will do is if I want to call it as a simply like this, so you know what is gonna happen in this case. So you know what will happen in this case, we will get an error. So let's see, and here you can see it is saying that print message takes 0 positional argument but 1 was given. So why it is saying like that? Because when we call on line number 30 this print message function with p object, so the instance p object is passed to this line number 26 internally by Python. But since we have not defined a self keyword here, that is why it is saying that it takes 0 positional argument but 1 was given. So we are saying that we have passed 1 argument from here internally, which is passed by internally by Python, But here where the function is defined, here we have not given any of the argument, so that is why it is giving error. So if I write self here and if I run this program again, you can see that it prints hello world. But this example is of instance method which we just saw, and what we want to do is we want to convert this into class method. So what we will do is we will pass a reference of class here, and here we will say, hey, this is a class method. Now what if I run this program now, sorry, this is missing here, and if I run this program now, then it will say hello world again. So right now we can see that it again we have passed instance, CLS picks that instance and prints hello world for us. But the main benefit of class method is that we don't require to create an object for the class to call class methods. So that is the main benefit which we get from the class methods. So how we can see that? Let's say P is the class, and now what we are doing is we are directly calling the print message function over or on this object. So if I run this program, you can see the magic happening. Here we have not created any object like here we did, and what we did is we directly called the class P on print message, and this P, which is a class reference, was given to CLS, and this hello world was printed. So here we can see that we pass class name as the parameter to this function. So any method, because inside a class a function is a method, so it is just a naming convention that we follow, that inside a class a function is called as a method. So any method which has the class reference, not the instance but the class itself, so any method that has class itself as a parameter, that kind of methods are called as class methods. And here we add a decorator to it, that to denote it that hey, it's a class method and you can directly call it over the object. So what is the benefit? The benefit is that we don't require to create an object as we did for instance method, and we can directly call it on the class. So I hope we have got the difference between the class, instance and the class method. Now let's come to our third method, and that is the static method. So what does and how do we use static methods? So let's say we have a class X, and it has a method print message 1 and print hello, I am static method. And what we do is this is done. Now let's create an object. X object is equals to X, as we did in the previous example. And if we run this program, we know that on line number 35 it's gonna say that hey, you have not passed the self here. So now to skip that part, to say that we don't want to pass any instance here, what we do is we just say hey, it's a static method. And now what does this decorator? So decorator is basically what you can say, decorators are basically a thing which adds some property to your method. So here what this decorator, so static method is a decorator, and what it has done is it is saying that hey, print message 1 is a static method and it does not require any argument. So the methods which do not take any argument, or sorry, parameter, is called as static method. And by now we know that whenever we call any method, we create an object. And now if we do it like this, hey, I want to print this, and let's run this program. Then you can see, hello, I am a static method, and here you can see that in fact we have called this on an object. It didn't throw any error related to this line number 36 because we have added a decorator property to it, and we have told Python that hey, it's a static method and it does not require any argument. So you can see on the hover or the pop-up screen, a static method does not receive implicit first argument. To declare a static method, use this idiom. So this is how we define static methods in Python. So I hope you would have got the clarity what are static, class and the instance methods in Python, and the super and self keyword. So that is all for this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment and do subscribe to my channel. Thank you.